Hello, hello.
Hello,
Welcome.
welcome to the Signet Duo. I'm Ryan,
I'm Easton.
and we are here to bring you all content EDH focused, maybe some generalized Magic the Gathering information, but
Yeah,
ge-
and videos, fun stuff.
yeah, generally just going to be about EDH. You're going to get to hear our unsolicited opinions. You can always choose not to watch, but
Please don't.
yeah. All
Yeah.
right.
So what's today's topic that we want to just jump right into?
Yeah, I think today we can just talk about the hybrid mana change.
Well, not the. It hasn't been changed.
Yeah, true,
Yeah, yeah.
true,
No,
true.
no change. We just want
It's
to talk about
probably
the
going to
pit.
be changed, but yeah, it has not been changed yet.
Maybe I could see them, yeah, much further down the road, make the change. But do you want to describe kind of what that is?
Yeah, so currently the way things work in Commander is that your commander has to have the color identity of, has to have the cards have to fit within the color identity, right? So if
Of
your
the commander
commander is, red and white, you can only have cards that are red, white, or both.
Or
The
colorless.
or colorless. The proposed change would be that if you have a hybrid mana symbol, it could go in either a red deck or a white deck or a Boros deck. It does not have to share all of the colors contained in that pip.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, I think overall that change would be maybe not upfront super impactful, at least at like first glance. But I think we definitely with this topic want to dive into kind of what we think could be maybe problematic in the future. And I mean, I would say also we just generally think it looks ugly.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's a few ways you can evaluate that proposed change. One of them is it going to throw the format into disarray because you're going to see a huge number of hybrid cards infiltrating decks? Does it do things from a power level standpoint? I think we both agree that in general that probably isn't going to be too much of the case. With the caveat that I do think as they print more and more of these cards, the density of them in certain colors, especially like white and red, are definitely going to rise.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be something that you would see quite often, especially down the road if they're planning sets with these hybrid symbols. And I would imagine that like whenever they reached out to the commander community asking for input
Mm-hmm.
on the topic, I mean, it seemed like people were split, actually like 50-50, which I was a little surprised to see that. Um,
Yeah, I think in my mind, more people thought like I did.
yeah, turns out we were quite wrong. Um, but I just think that overall the commander format is generally pretty resilient to change, or at least I thought it was maybe a little bit more resilient to change. And I was definitely a little nervous whenever Wizards took over the format, and I knew that change was going to come.
Oh yeah, I mean, you've seen that in how they've introduced planeswalkers as commanders, vehicles now as commanders, partner. Yeah, they want to shake things up a bit, and I can appreciate not wanting to let things get stale, but I guess I'm a traditionalist in that the way EDH started is kind of more of how I want to keep it. Um, I think it's no secret that it's the most popular format right now, and I kind of think that's because Wizards has had a limited hand
Scope.
in it.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think when you get down to the root of the format, I mean, what one of the biggest things that keeps it different and unique is that the color identity is unique solely to Commander. It was, I mean, I can't think of other formats that have it except maybe ones that were like dabbling maybe a little bit
Yeah, I
to
mean,
make like
like I think like Brawl.
yeah, I guess I don't know much about Brawl, so I don't know if it had a Commander identity
I
colors.
think it followed pretty much the same concept, but it was with like a smaller deck size, I
Yeah,
think, and it
yeah,
rotated.
sure.
But yeah, I think overall, um, the change from a power level standpoint, I don't think it's going to be too severe. I think in colors like white or red, where they have certain weaknesses like card draw, I think you're going to see a high density of hybrid cards show up there, right? If they print a red blue draw card, it's probably going to be better than just what the monocolor red deck could normally do before this change. So
Right.
you're probably going to see more of that.
Yeah, I would agree. So I guess let's maybe dive down into some examples. So you got like a few examples you want to talk
Yeah,
about?
so Beseech the Queen. It's a sorcery, 3 mana, hybrid, 2 colorless, and 1 black pip. So you can either play 3 black mana, or you could pay 6 generic, or any combination thereof. You search your library for a card with converted mana cost less than or equal to the number of lands you control, reveal it, and put it into your hand. Then shuffle your library. So I think this is probably one of the ones that springs to mind most, because it has generic in part of the hybrid cost. So you
Yeah.
could put this in any colored deck if this change went through.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, if you just like just looking at the presentation of the card, right? I mean, it looks like a black card. I would expect it to be in a deck that has black, and the fact that it could go in any deck. I think for me, it's like green.
Yeah.
So what does the card do? It's search your library for a card with
Converted mana cost less than or equal to the number of lands you control. So in a green deck, I mean, you're going to be able to basically search for any card you want. Now, you're probably paying 6 mana, but again, with some of the artifact ramp and lands that have been printed, not even necessarily, right? A lot of lands say tap to add 1 color of any mana, or artifacts do that. So you
Yep.
could potentially even reduce it down from 6, even in a mono green deck.
Yeah, and I guess I also wonder how this kind of interaction would work if, like, let's say you were playing like a jet medallion, right? I mean, the card on its paper would still have an identity of black on the stack, maybe. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, not sure how something like that would work. So, like, would you say I'm going to choose 6 colorless, but since it's a black spell, would it reduce it?
Right. Yeah. Or could you pay some combination? So, like, say I pay 1 black mana and then 4 generic. Is it really just 3 generic? Because
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll probably put that in the podcast after we finish. We'll look it up.
Yeah, because I'm not quite sure how that interaction would work.
But again, I think this is just the most obvious example. I'm not saying that, like, in decks that have black, you're gonna ever run this card, but I could see a use for it in quite a few, decks: mono white, mono
yeah,
green, mono red. I think this is definitely playable.
I mean, to grab any card is just so strong.
Mhm.
I mean, and if you can reduce the mana cost, and basically get yourself a demonic tutor, or maybe a worse demonic tutor.
Yep.
I mean, well, certainly a worse demonic tutor, but having that in any color is really just kind of shocking to me.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it just goes back to what Commander is. Do you want a format where colors' weaknesses are kind of bridged by these hybrid cards? I know from a play standpoint, some people are probably saying, yeah, that wouldn't be too bad to kind of, beef up mono white or red or some of these other colors that are lacking card draw or other things. But just, the feel of it just isn't the same when you're doing all the things the other colors could do.
Yeah, I mean, I think the feel is probably my biggest indicator for the card. It's just, this gives me the wrong feeling, and one of the things that got me into this format was kind of the feelings that you get playing it, right? I mean, you fall in love with the format because you're enjoying the vibes, you're having a good time, you're having deck restrictions
Yeah.
based on the commander that you choose, and by kind of blurring that line, by letting hybrid mana symbols just be whatever you kind of want it to be, it just kind of defeats the purpose of the color identity.
I think you will see less variation in certain decks once they get access to hybrid mana. But another example of this, Everlasting Torment. It is a 3-drop enchantment, 2 generic, 1 hybrid Rakdos symbol. Players can't gain life. Damage can't be prevented. All damage is dealt as though its source had Wither. So on its surface, you say, okay, players can't gain life. That's something that I've seen black cards and red cards do.
Yeah.
What about the damage can't be prevented? In a mono black deck, I just don't know that that
Yeah.
feels right at all, or is an ability they should really have.
Is it just combat damage or just all damage?
No, just
Any damage. Wow.
Any damage cannot be prevented.
Yeah, I mean that's
Very red ability.
yeah, it's a very red ability. And the other thing about that is black has so many cards that, get around that damage, right? Because like loss of life would not be encompassed by this.
Yep.
So the fact that it's in currently you have to have this in a Rakdos deck does limit it, but the fact that you could just slot this into a mono black deck, or not really just a mono black deck, any deck with black,
Right.
it's just adding that tool to all the other color combinations.
Yeah. I mean, again, this is kind of the thing I really don't like about the hybrid mana proposed rule change, is just that if you look at a lot of these cards, they feel like they could be one of the colors, and they feel like they could be a combination of the colors, but typically that other color, I just can't see some of these cards existing in that color. For example, Cemetery Puka is one generic and then two Dimir pips. Creature Shapeshifter, a 1/2. Whenever a creature is put into a graveyard from play, you may pay one generic. If you do, Cemetery Puka becomes a copy of that creature and gains this ability. A very Dimir card.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this screams Dimir.
Yeah.
It has all the aspects of Dimir, right? I mean, you're talking about graveyard and then copying, right?
Yep. And I could even maybe see it being a black card because it kind of deals with the graveyard, and I could see something like that. But as a mono blue card, I really just don't see this.
Yeah, does mono blue need that graveyard
interaction?
And I don't feel like it does. I mean, mono blue already does everything.
Yeah.
That it needs. It draws cards, it casts spells, it has artifacts that support it so well. It combos off all by itself. It doesn't need any extra support, and so it's like, just give it some extra graveyard interactions. Creature graveyard interactions.
And again, I think there's something for me about Commander where all of the colors have their strengths and their weaknesses. And I think that I would really like to see the game go in a direction that encourages those strengths as opposed to trying to print cards that are okay-ish and really good in certain color combinations that wouldn't otherwise have access to them.
Yeah, I mean, I would rather see that same kind of trend. I mean, I guess the problem with that trend is that they just keep printing super good green cards and super good blue cards, while Boros or white and red has kind of always trailed behind. Now, sure, they've been getting lots of love recently, but not to the same extent as green.
No, I think green is by far the most loved color in Magic currently. And I guess let's look at this card. Mikey and Leo, Chaos and Order. It's
not the Turtles. I didn't want to talk about the Turtles, everybody.
We
Sorry.
have to talk about the Turtles. They are here forever. 2 Selesnya pips, a legendary creature. It's a mutant ninja turtle. I'm so sorry. Whenever you put a counter on a creature you control, draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. It's a 2/2. So, if you put this in a green deck, I think you could see that.
Yeah, I would say that would be like a normal ability for green too.
It cares about counters and it draws cards off counters. I think that's reasonable.
Yeah, we've seen that lots of times with lots of different abilities, various abilities in the past years.
In a mono white deck, I mean, they do some things with counters, but drawing cards based on counters.
Does it say that it puts on a it's any counter, right?
Yeah, whenever you put a counter.
You're right. So like white, I would say definitely has a good amount of like counter additions. So right, like if it's just adding like a first strike counter, something along those lines. So like in white, I mean, this would be like an auto include. Well, maybe not every deck, but any white deck that's dealing with counters at all, this would be an auto include. And even though it's definitely follows
easy
the
enough, right?
in
mono white right now, I feel like if you can draw one card reliably around, that's a pretty good draw card. So this one where you could potentially finagle, a card every turn.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty strong. I feel like a lot of mono white decks would run this. And I feel like this is my problem, right? You're going to see cards like this for mono white. You're just going to have a mono white deck with like 10 hybrid cards just to draw cards.
Especially if white's falling behind.
Yeah. Or
and
same with red.
Yeah, and I guess like if you look at the current pool of cards, like the hybrid mana cards, I know it's not large right now, but trying to think ahead to the future, there are plenty of sets that like to add hybrid cards. I mean, this is a Universes Beyond set, which I think we all know they're really pushing. And so if they're willing to just put this in a Universes Beyond set, I would expect that we're going to see hybrid symbols in other Universes Beyond sets in the future. There are some planes, like Magic planes, that kind of leaned more heavily into hybrid mana cost. So anytime anything like that comes around, we could see more hybrid mana cards.
Yeah, and I guess the thing for me is that you only need a few of these to be really, really good. Over 10 years, that's a lot of cards that you're going to see just hybrid.
Right.
But
yeah, I worry about, this kind of rule change and not just how it impacts the format right now, which I think is very little, but what is going to happen in a decade. I really like to think that I'll still be playing Commander, and I really also like to think that we'll be talking in a podcast about Commander in 10 years. But, and how long have we been playing Commander? About 10 years?
About 10 years.
So we just got to do this again?
Yeah.
And I could think there's been a lot of sets and a lot of cards that have been added with hybrid since then.
Yeah, I mean, our first set was Fate Reforged?
Yeah, it's right about
Khans,
whenever,
I guess.
Yeah, Khans of Tarkir / Fate Reforged was right whenever we the Khans block.
Yeah. I mean, so for example, this card, Waves of Aggression. It's 3 generic and 2 Boros. A sorcery. Untap all creatures that attack this turn. After this main phase, there's an additional combat phase followed by an additional main phase. And then it has Retrace. So you may play this card from your graveyard by discarding a land card in addition to paying its other costs. Thoughts?
Extra combats. That I would say belongs to red.
Yeah.
It is one of red's strengths. And I think that it should definitely be allowed in any kind of deck, or encouraged in any kind of deck that has red in it. But with this new proposed hybrid rule, with it being Boros, this could go in mono white, this could go in green white, this could go in blue white.
And I just think that by doing that, you're also kind of diluting red's strength, right? Because if I can get red's extra combat abilities, maybe I don't want to run red when I can just run
this,
blue black. Or I'm sorry, blue red in this point.
Yeah, blue red.
Or anything that just has white, you could just run that.
Yeah, so now you're basically not tied to the color pie. You could just go and select a commander that's like super hyper creature focused, but doesn't even have to have red to get extra combats. You could, what would be a popular color combo? Green white, I would say, would be a huge one, right? They go pretty wide.
Get tokens,
and then now you're getting an extra combat, which is just a little wild to think about for Selesnya to get
extra combats. Well, and not only that, but the retrace ability, right? So you're able to discard lands, which in a green deck, you're probably going to run higher than average.
And you could run things like Crucible Worlds.
Yep.
So you could get this back and have no problem. Or I still explore.
Yeah. So there's just a lot of ways that I feel like this degrades the few strengths that some of these colors have and just let you build entirely different decks without them.
Yeah, the decks that don't need this effect are going to be the ones that benefit the most from this deck.
Yeah, it's just like a pretty good example, land destruction, right? The decks that benefit the most from land destruction, I find, are also the decks that are abusing lands.
Yep. Exactly.
That's why Jund is so happy when they see like land destruction type effects.
Yeah. Certainly doesn't hurt him.
But I mean, again, I think my whole issue with this is not the power level. I do think that, if white and red were able to get better draw, if if blue had access to extra combat steps, I don't think this would be the end of the game or the
No,
format.
no, no, no.
I mean, things would go on.
It would be an adjustment for
Yeah.
sure. I would not stop playing Commander if this
No.
rule was changed. I would probably maybe look at the player who's playing this spell and be like, why?
Yeah.
Why are you doing this to me? I don't need to see this.
Yeah, I think I just think that overall you would see a less diverse Magic format.
Yeah, I think it would definitely tie some of these cards into decks that just normally would not have it.
Yeah, and I guess, it's just the other thing to consider is beyond this change, right? So if they change this, I mean, you've got to consider again, they made Planeswalkers commanders, they did partner, they've done vehicles as commander. So it's clear that they want to kind of keep changing things. And, it only takes one or two changes to
drastically change the format.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah. Once they start piling on one after the other, I mean, and then, let's say a commander player comes back to playing after 2 years, and then they're like, what is this? I've never, what format is this? You could just play whatever color you want in any deck.
Yeah.
So,
I can't say that I would be happy to see this change. I think that's my final thought on it.
I think I got one more thought on it. And I guess it kind of stems from, why are they wanting to make this rule change? At least from their perspective, it was kind of tied into like their R&D. They treat hybrid cards for all formats as the ore. So, across all of Magic, modern, standard, legacy, whatever it may be, the rule is that you can choose kind of what this color is, but those formats don't also have commander identity deck restrictions. Right. So, it's a little bit, I could see how like a new player coming in or an experienced player in other formats that's not commander comes into commander. I could see how they could accidentally, include these cards like how they normally would in like standard or modern. Whereas in commander, we'd be like, oh no, you can't do that here. So I could see how that could be a little confusing for them. And I can actually appreciate why Wizards would want to like align their formats and the rules. But since commander is unique the way that it is, not every single rule is going to work for every single situation.
I mean, and you just have to understand that commander is its own thing, right? So, for example, here's a rule we misplayed for a while. Niv Mizzet. It's a famous dragon. We'll put him on the screen. But basically, the key point is that whenever you draw a card, he deals 1 damage to, any target. And when we first started playing, commander damage, we just assumed it was damage dealt by your commander. And dang, Niv Mizzet was really good.
Yeah,
when he was wiping people out for 21 damage left and right.
Yeah, just wheel a few times, and I was thinking I was over here killing every single player. And it's not the case.
Yeah, we went to, I think it was like play at like a magic shop, or I forget where we did, but we played with some people and they're like, that is absolutely wrong. And we're like, oh. And yeah, sure, we had to tear apart that deck after because it was no good.
Well, I mean, it still was good.
But at the moment, it was hard to reconcile that because it had taken such a steep hit.
Yeah, instead of dealing 21 damage to every player, I'm now dealing 40. So yeah, that just like shocked me. I was like, well, it just is commander damage. Yeah. So there's a lot of really confusing rules.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that we should change those just because people might play it wrong, right?
Yeah.
Just because people play a rule wrong is not a reason, in my opinion, to change it.
Yeah, I would agree. Okay, well, I guess you have any other thoughts?
Don't do this.
Please.
I mean, honestly, we didn't really discuss it too much, but just for me personally, if you were watching this, don't do it. I
know you know nothing about this guy, but
you know nothing. But it makes me really sad when I see a color in a deck that isn't represented in that deck's
Yeah, you know,
commander
and,
identity.
like for example, if you're running like a mono blue deck and you're running polluted delta,
Yeah.
that upsets you.
And that is 100% legal, just
Yes,
like
it
this
is.
might be.
Yep.
But it still makes me very sad.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't do that to me. So
Yeah.
that's my final thought there.
All right. Well, I guess we just kind of want to go to maybe talk a little bit more about like what our show, what our podcast, what our YouTube videos are gonna kind of aim at do. So yeah, we're gonna be talking about all sorts of Commander topics. You can find us on YouTube. We're also gonna be launching like podcast on Spotify. So please follow us. We'll really appreciate any support.
Like and subscribe.
Yeah, comment. We would love to be able to have people comment on our videos. We would love to join the chat and just totally get everyone's opinions. I mean, Ryan and I are ready to get completely roasted by the internet.
Absolutely. I mean, I think we both know that our opinions are not always correct, but we wanted to put them out there. So
but they
feel
are
free.
opinions nonetheless.
They are, and people will watch this. All right. But, we'll be probably trying to release an episode probably every 2 weeks ish.
Yeah, that's kind of our goal right now. I'm sure it's going to change over time. We still have a lot to learn. So, bear with us.
Yeah. So if you're going to be joining us next time, we will be discussing the ban list, kind of going through those cards.
Commander ban list.
And kind of see what we both think.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you, everybody.
Peace.
Till next time.